Hello, everyone. If you're watching this video, you've probably asked yourself at some point, why is reading in English so important? Maybe you're just starting to learn English, or you've been learning for a while and want to improve. Whatever the case, you're in the right place, because today we're going to dive deep into why reading in English can make a huge difference in your language learning journey. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll want to pick up an English book right away. So let's get started. Why reading in English is important. First of all, why is reading in English important? Does it really make a difference compared to just listening to people speak or watching videos? The answer is a big yes. Let me explain why. When you read in English, you're not only learning new words and phrases, but you're also seeing how these words fit together in real-life contexts. This is super important because learning English isn't just about memorizing individual words. It's about understanding how those words work together, how sentences are built, and how ideas flow. Think of reading as a window into the language. Imagine you're building a house. If you only focus on learning vocabulary, it's like collecting a bunch of bricks. Sure, you need bricks to build the house, but if you don't know how to put them together, you won't get very far, right? Well, reading is like having the blueprint for that house. It shows you how to take those bricks or words and turn them into something meaningful, like a conversation, a story, or even an email. How reading improves your vocabulary. One of the biggest benefits of reading in English is how much it improves your vocabulary. When you read, you come across new words all the time, and you get to see them used in different situations. This is much more helpful than just looking at a list of words and their meanings. Why? Because when you read, you get to see how the words are used, not just what they mean. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're reading a sentence like, "The weather was dreadful, so they decided to stay indoors." Maybe you don't know the word dreadful, but from the rest of the sentence, you can probably guess that it means something negative because they decided to stay inside. And guess what? Now you've learned a new word. You didn't just memorize it, you understood it in a real situation. Reading also exposes you to collocations, which are words that are commonly used together. For example, in English, we say make a decision instead of do a decision. These little details can be hard to remember if you're just studying a textbook. But when you read, you see these word combinations naturally and get used to how they're supposed to sound. Over time, this will help you sound more like a native speaker, boosting your pronunciation. Okay, here's a fun tip. Did you know that reading in English can also help you with your pronunciation? I know that might sound strange because reading is usually a silent activity. But if you practice reading out loud, you'll be training your mouth to pronounce English sounds correctly. It's like a workout for your mouth. When you read out loud, you're practicing the rhythm and flow of English. You're also giving yourself time to focus on the way words are supposed to sound. And the best part? You don't need anyone else to practice with. You can do this by yourself. Start with something simple, like a short story or even a children's book. The more you practice reading out loud, the more confident you'll become in speaking English. Plus, when you read out loud, you can hear yourself and start to notice if certain words are tricky to pronounce. This gives you the chance to practice them until you get them right. Over time, this will help you develop a more natural accent and improve your speaking skills in general. Understanding grammar naturally. Now let's talk about grammar. I know, grammar can be a bit of a headache sometimes. It's full of rules, exceptions, and things that don't always make sense at first. But guess what? When you read in English, you're learning grammar without even realizing it. Let's take a simple sentence. She has been working here for 2 years. If you read sentences like this over and over in books, articles, or stories, you start to get a feel for how English grammar works, especially tricky tenses like the present perfect continuous, has been working. You might not even notice that you're learning grammar, but your brain is taking it all in. This is called implicit learning, learning without actively thinking about it. When you read, you see how native speakers use the language correctly. Over time, this helps you understand how to use things like verb tenses, prepositions, and sentence structure without having to memorize a bunch of complicated rules. It's like learning by osmosis, just absorbing the language naturally. Exposure to different English styles and accents. Here's another reason why reading is so important. English is a global language. It's spoken in many different countries: England, the United States, Canada, Australia, South Africa, and many more. Each place has its own way of speaking English, with different accents and even slightly different words. When you read, especially if you read books or articles from different countries, you'll be exposed to these different styles of English. This is really helpful because it prepares you to understand English in different contexts. Reading also helps you become familiar with informal language and slang. Not everything you learn in a classroom is what people actually say in real life. By reading novels, blogs, or even social media posts, you'll see how English speakers really talk, and you'll be able to pick up phrases that make you sound more natural, building confidence in English. Now let's talk about something really important: confidence. Learning a new language can be scary, right? It's normal to feel nervous about speaking or writing in English, especially if you're still learning. But here's the thing. The more you read, the more confident you'll become. When you read, you're giving yourself more exposure to the language. The more you see words, phrases, and sentences in English, the more comfortable you become with them. It's like practicing anything. The more you do it, the better you get. And as you get better, you start to feel more confident. Imagine you're in a conversation and someone uses a word you've seen in a book before. You'll recognize it, and you'll feel more comfortable responding. Or maybe you're writing an email and you suddenly remember how sentences are structured from something you read. This is where the magic happens. Reading builds your language intuition, the ability to know what sounds right or wrong in English without having to think too hard about it. What to read as a beginner. So, maybe you're thinking, okay, this sounds great, but what should I read? That's a great question. Here are a few tips to help you choose the right reading materials as a beginner. 1. Start simple. You don't need to start with complicated novels or Shakespeare. Look for short stories, blogs, or even comic books. These often have simpler language, and they're also fun to read. The goal is to enjoy what you're reading so that it doesn't feel like hard work. 2. Graded readers. These are books specifically designed for English learners. They come in different levels, from beginner to advanced, so you can choose one that's right for you. Graded readers use simpler vocabulary and sentence structures, but they still tell interesting stories. 3. Children's books. Don't be afraid to pick up a children's book. They're great for beginners because they use simple language, but they're still full of rich, meaningful stories. Plus, they're often illustrated, which makes them even more engaging. 4. News articles. There are plenty of websites that offer news articles in simple English. These are great because they're short, informative, and help you stay updated with current events while practicing your reading. 5. Online blogs and forums. If you have a specific interest or hobby, try reading blogs or forums in English about that topic. For example, if you love cooking, read recipes and food blogs in English. This way, you're combining something you enjoy with your language practice. Don't worry about understanding everything. Here's another important tip. Don't stress if you don't understand every word. That's completely normal. Even native speakers don't know every word in the English language. When you're reading, focus on understanding the general meaning of the sentence or paragraph, not every single word. If you come across a word you don't know, try to guess its meaning from the context. Look at the words around it and see if you can figure it out. If it's still unclear, don't worry. You can always look it up in a dictionary, but try not to interrupt your reading too much. It's better to keep the flow going and focus on understanding the big picture. Another thing to remember is that understanding every detail isn't always necessary. Focus on progress, not perfection. The more you read, the more you'll naturally pick up. At first, you might only understand 60–70% of what you're reading, and that's totally fine. As long as you're getting the main idea, you're improving. Over time, that percentage will grow, and before you know it, you'll be understanding much more without even realizing it. Learning English can sometimes feel like a long journey, and it's easy to get discouraged if you don't see results right away. But remember, every bit of progress counts, even the small wins. Did you understand a new word while reading? That's a win. Did you finish reading a short story? That's a win. Did you read an article and understand most of it without using a dictionary? That's a big win. Celebrate these moments. They show that you're getting better, even if it feels slow sometimes. Learning a language is like planting a tree. You don't see it grow every day, but if you keep watering it, in this case, reading and practicing. It will get stronger over time. Reading as a gateway to other learning. Here's something exciting. Reading is just the beginning. Once you start improving your reading skills, you'll notice that other areas of your English will improve too. You'll find that speaking and writing become easier because you're more familiar with how the language works. Reading also gives you the tools to explore more advanced areas of learning. For example, if you're interested in a specific subject, like science, technology, or even pop culture, you can start reading articles or books on that topic in English. This way, you're learning two things at once: the English language and the subject you're passionate about. And don't forget, reading in English gives you access to a huge world of knowledge. Think about it. Most books, articles, and research papers are written in English. So by improving your reading skills, you're opening up a world of information that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. Conclusion. So why is reading in English so important? Because it improves your vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and listening skills. It helps you understand the natural flow of the language. Plus, it's fun. If you're serious about learning English, reading is one of the best things you can do. It's a powerful tool that will take your language skills to the next level. So, what are you waiting for? Pick up an English book, article, or blog and start reading today.
If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, make sure you don't miss our next video.